right now. Pittsburgh's best sports show is about to begin. Call us or tweet us. We've got things to talk about on the Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome inside the Fan Cave. This is the Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call. As the title suggests, we're here nightly, and that includes the weekend, 7 nights a week at 412-575-2600 is the number to call. Hit us up on Twitter at KDPomp, at The Pony Express. Andrew Filipponi in tonight. And Pony, we have a question that's going to be up there tonight. You'll see it on the QR code, and we ask people out there, if you want to take part in this, make sure that you hit on it and make a choice. And it's a simple one. And I know we have some NBA fans out there. So watching tonight, Nikola Jokic play in New York, and it's an interesting question. He's won, I think, 3 MVPs of the NBA. Who would be your choice tonight if I gave you 2 choices? Jokic, who is averaging a triple-double, again, say that, averaging a triple-double, or Shai Gilgeous-Alexander from Oklahoma City, and they play Golden State tonight. He's doing things on his team without maybe his, number one partner in crime, Chet Holmgren, who still hasn't played in a long time, and he may not play for a longer time. Who knows how that's going to go? But they're number one in the NBA record-wise, even without him. Who's your MVP?
Yeah, Bob, I appreciate what you're doing here. Anything to avoid talking about our teams with the way the Steelers, Penguins, and Pirates are looking right now. I would say SGA. I mean, they have the best record in the entire league, and he's the NBA's leading scorer. So that is a combination that I think is really a perfect one for a guy to win MVP. Best player on best team and also the league's leading scorer. So the informed, educated NBA fan here in Pittsburgh, of which there are many, even though we don't have a team, if you've been following the league for the first half of the season, you know that the Oklahoma City Thunder guard is the best player in the NBA this season.
Yeah, I would agree with that, although it's hard to really ignore the numbers Jokic is putting up, because this may be the best season of his career, which is saying something. He's already won 3 MVPs. So,
well, only one wins, and it's the same thing with the NFL. We can't split it 5 ways between Josh Allen, Joe Burrow, Lamar Jackson, Patrick Mahomes, and Saquon Barkley. Somebody's got to win MVP. It's only for one. And I agree with you. I mean, Jokic, the triple-double. We saw Russell Westbrook average that. Of course, Oscar Robertson before that. But as far as just the MVP valuable, you just nailed it. With the Holmgren injury, Oklahoma City would be a good team, not a great team, with no SGA, or if he just was having an average season, they would be a good, not great team. And he has elevated them to unprecedented heights, even higher than the Cleveland Cavaliers, who've had a fantastic season in the Eastern Conference.
They have, and those teams have met earlier. All right, enough of that, even though I do like watching and talking about the NBA. On to the matters at hand, and the Steelers now. I saw a clip tonight that I think you put up. Or so I don't know who put it up, but it was Julian Edelman talking about how easy the Steelers are to play against. That's a concerning subject if you're a Steeler fan, and it should be if you're a Steelers coach. If you're expecting the same thing over and over, it makes it a little easier to plot a game plan against that sort of defensive approach.
Bob, I mean, we're in a situation now where it really has just been a cacophony of negativity, where so many people since the season have ended have slammed this team, whether it's former players of the Steelers or guys that have played against them. And I have to commend you. I thought you asked great questions to Art Rooney as far as wanting to get answers to questions that the average fan has. You did not ask these erudite questions. You did not ask granular questions. You asked questions that people really care about. And so really, this organization is doing its best to try to put out answers. But the issue is that we don't see action. And I get it, it's January. You can't sign a new wide receiver yet. And other than, remember that Jared Goff, Matt Stafford trade, Bob, happened around this time a few years ago, out of nowhere, before the Super Bowl even happened. So I guess there is precedent for moves this time of year, but really right now it's just going to come across as hollow, especially when you have no real coaching changes of significance, and your season is over and free agency and the draft are still months away. I just get frustrated when I see things like that statement from Edelman, but also, Bob, I see the Ravens bring in Chuck Pagano and lure him out of retirement to help their defense. They did the same thing with Dean Pease midseason. And you asked Art about the Steelers coaching staff, and he seemed to think that size or quality is not an issue, but history would say otherwise when we see 3 guys off of Nick Sirianni's staff get hired as head coaches, and we've still yet to see that happen with Mike Tomlin.
Yeah, I agree with you about bringing in other voices or people just to oversee, just to help. It doesn't hurt to do that. And, of course, this is something that doesn't have anything to do with how much you are required to spend. So this is basically a choice by the powers that be. You can spend it or not. And in this case, they feel like they have enough. We'll see how this goes moving forward. But I would expect that they will add on. They should add on. Pass game coordinators, run game coordinators, all of these things seem to be popping up everywhere, and it's in an effort to make you better as a football team. So why not join the crowd? I would.
Well, especially when things aren't working. I mean, when you're winning games and you're winning playoff games and you're competing for championships, you know, if somebody wants to lobby or level that complaint against your organization, you just say, well, look, the results say otherwise. But that's not happening. Even Ben Roethlisberger went on his podcast and said the same thing, like they should add more, but they won't because it's not something that the Rooneys do. Well, this idea that you do things the old-fashioned way or the way things used to be done because that's the way the organization has always conducted itself, we need to move away from that. When you've gone this long without coming close to meeting your stated goal, you should be making more drastic changes. And I heard what he said to you, Bob. He brought up the Arthur Smith thing, but okay, that was last year and the result didn't get any better. So why not try to make more bold moves and bigger moves to try to end what is this stagnation period that's been going on for way too long?
All right, we'll talk more about this, Pony, as we go to a break. Want to invite you to call us at 412-575-2600. The Penguins are in another game where they're probably going to lose to a bad team, an expansion team. Actually, not an expansion team, but a new team. The Utah, I don't know what they call them yet, team. It's 1-0 at last check. We'll get into that and more as we continue right here on the Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call. All right, GMC Sierra tweet of the night comes from FanDuel, Pony's website to go to when it comes to making bets. Patrick Mahomes has more career playoff wins than any of these teams have in their entire franchise history. Think about that, 17. And look at the teams over there. Still looking now. Detroit's on this list, but they've turned the corner. At least you think so. The Bengals, you know, we'll see what happens with them in this offseason. It should be a very interesting offseason. Andrew, talking about some of these teams and what they're going to do and free agency. And the one thing the Steelers will have is money. They should probably have even more money. They're going to make some moves, I would imagine, to reduce their obligation to some of these players. And then they had, I think, money to begin with. They could go out and make a big signing, and I would be kind of disappointed if they didn't.
You know, I thought one of the things that came out of your conversation with Art that we really didn't see fleshed out from the Q&A with reporters is when you asked Art about a free agent move, and he said, well, let's see how much money we have left over after signing a quarterback. And that made me think that he believes the cost of signing a quarterback, Fields or Russell Wilson, Bob, is going to be more expensive than what we on the outside think. That's how I interpreted that. Like, as far as the amount of money per year that goes to a player, their biggest expenditure is going to be on a quarterback. And my take on that is, you know, I don't really think Justin Fields is worth $20 million a year or thereabouts. And I don't think Russell Wilson is worth $30 million a year or thereabouts. Because I don't think with either one, Bob, I'm going to compete for a championship this year. So my personal strategy would be, let's save on quarterback just like we did last year. Let's maybe draft somebody in the middle rounds, and let's use the money we save to sign free agents at other positions and fill out the roster. And look, it's not going to happen overnight, but let's try to maybe right now go the Philadelphia model route than try to do what Kansas City did. Because look, if you sign Fields for $20 million a year, Bob, you're no closer to winning a Super Bowl with him, in my opinion. You're just filling a position, and yeah, that's not a lot in quarterback dollars, but giving Justin Fields that amount of money would still make him, after T.J. Watt, the highest paid player on the Steelers roster.
Well, I understand that. I still think there is, I've said this all along, me personally, I think there's some upside to his game in the passing department. I think he can develop
So what's
more.
your limit? What would be the amount of money where Bob would say, you know what, Justin Fields, thank you, but no thank you. We're not going to pay that amount
I would
per
offer
year.
him 2 years, 25 to 30 million in that range. And if he wants to take it, fine. Total, yeah.
Okay.
And I'm not going to go too much higher than that. And with Russell Wilson, if he wants to start at 30, I wouldn't want to go there either. I mean, the age is a factor in this whole scenario. You have to consider that. Is his, his best days are behind him? Is what's ahead? I don't know what's ahead, but it can't be as good as what was behind. So why would you go in that direction with that kind of money if you're using your strategy? So I do think they're going to draft someone. But the problem with that is you may be wasting a pick that you need. When I look at some of the picks that the Eagles have made over the last 2 years, first round, second round, I was looking at their roster tonight just to see. They've made some huge player acquisitions who've turned out to be really good players. That's where it starts. I'd hate to think that you would pull a Mason Rudolph type of, oh, wow, we have a good grade on this guy, we're taking him in the second or third round, and he turns out to not to be your answer anyway.
Well, that's a little bit different, though, because you already had Ben, and at that point, Ben was still in his early 30s and playing well. So you ended up trying to find a half measure. You weren't willing to use a first-round pick on a quarterback like the Packers to go with Jordan Love to replace Aaron Rodgers. You tried to find a middle ground and take Mason in the third round, and he ended up being a third-round quarterback. Good backup, low-end starter at best. My thing about what you just said about Philly, they found their quarterback in the second round, Bob. So my thing is, if a Will Howard is sitting there in the third round, give me a good reason why they shouldn't pull the trigger and take him. What would be the argument against it?
Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that, but it's rare, and I think Jalen Hurts is maybe a rarity too in the second round to come up with somebody who could be your franchise guy.
No doubt. There's not a lot of them. Russell Wilson was a third-round pick. There are very few, but if you look at their third-round picks, they used a third-round pick on Darnell Washington. He's a second tight end who's always going to be a really good blocking tight end and never a good complete tight end. They've used third-round picks on running backs. They've used third-round picks on project players. So in that way, I think it would be insane, for example, to use the 20th pick on Jalen Milroe. But I do think they could use a quarterback who has potential on their team for next year. And look, I thought it was worth it trading a 6th-round pick for Justin Fields. But, Bob, there's a reason why it was available for a 6th-round pick, right?
Yeah, I get that.
The league does not think he can be a good starting quarterback. So why should the Steelers think they can turn him into one? They benched him for Russell Wilson last year.
The league also thought that Brock Purdy was irrelevant, so they took him as Mr. Irrelevant, and he turned out to be pretty relevant, at least for a time being, and we'll see beyond that.
No doubt, but the difference is you're trying to project college to pro, whereas with Justin Fields, we've seen him start 40-plus games
I understand,
in the NFL. But I hear your point.
I've seen Justin Fields, though, throw back-to-back 4-touchdown games in Chicago. I don't know if he had the right people around him to extract his talent at this level. We'll see. I'm not going to rule it out, but they have a lot of questions, certainly, and we'll see what the money is. We got a lot of people on the line, so they want to hesitate. Go ahead, real quick.
Okay.
No, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, do you think Justin Fields can turn into a Jalen Hurts? Because I don't.
I don't know if I'd go that far, but I think he could be certainly somebody who can be serviceable as a quarterback and help you win. I would go that far if he gets the right amount of development.
So we're back. So when you say serviceable, Bob, and you lived through this and it was a different era, we're back to trying to find a Mike Tomczak or Neil O'Donnell, basically? That's what we're doing here? Serviceable?
Well,
you can't win with serviceable anymore.
I understand that, but at this point, what are you going to do? And if you think that Howard is going to turn into a franchise quarterback, you may be right, you may be wrong. And if he's wrong, now you waste another pick and another year goes by where you keep trying to do it. And I just think it's a tough...
I agree, but I'd rather waste a third-round pick than spend $15 million a year on a quarterback who's shown me that he probably can't be a good starter in the NFL.
All right, another guy I'd look at seriously is Jackson Dart. I like what he does. I don't know if he's trends to the point where you'd think he'd be that guy. Anyway, let's get to the lines. We got Matt and Butler first up tonight. Sorry, Matt, we need more time on the show, but go ahead.
Hey, you guys should exchange cell phones since you have more time after the call. Hey, here's my point. This interview with Rooney, I hate these interviews because last year what did he say? There is a sense of urgency to get playoff wins. His actions never match the words. Then what does he do? He goes and gives an extension before there's any improvement on getting a win, gives an extension to Tomlin, and we've got the same. And this year he didn't. All he said at the end of the day was, well, there was a lot of positive things that happened this year. Come on, nothing changed.
Well, exactly. In fact, it's the same sort of
I don't think
ending.
he said the positive things.
No,
I would
he
just
really
quibble
didn't.
with that.
He didn't do that. He was more concerned about a lot of things that didn't go well. And I think he was clear about that. And I thought an interesting answer that was about George Pickens and, his history of off-the-field stuff. And he did say that's a major part of what we're going to look at. That made me think that they're really not going to be looking at him for a $30 million a year kind of contract.
I agree.
Would you?
I agree. I would not. I also thought he basically said, hey, Najee Harris, enjoy your next team.
Yeah.
Goodbye.
Yeah.
We have a hole in that room is what do you think he said to you? He also, I thought, look, you brought up the TJ Watt thing. I commend you for it. What I wanted to hear from Art in that answer was, look, we love TJ, but all options are on the table. We're not going to let anything stand in the way of becoming a great team. And he really didn't say that with that answer, Bob. He said, TJ Watt loves being a Steeler. Well, I also love Key West, but I can't afford to live there 365 days a year. Who cares if he loves being a Steeler? You got to do what's right for your organization, not acquiesce to the wishes of players.
No, I get that, but I think they put a premium on these guys who've been here start to finish, the one helmet guys, so to speak.
But
and
why?
he still I understand, but he still has, I think, pretty good mileage left on him. I know his brother went out at an earlier age, and that's always something, but they have a decision to make on him, too. And that would be...
Good point.
How much money do you spend on him at age 31? Can you expect him to be Cam Hayward and still doing
Bob,
his
I
thing
think
at
he
35?
wants to be the highest paid player in the league. I don't think he wants to get the biggest contract, but I think he wants to be paid annually that way.
Yeah, we'll see, and that could be a problem or not. We'll talk about it when we come back right here on the Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call. Don't go away. Ken Rice is standing by with a preview of what's on tonight's 11 o'clock broadcast. Ken?
Bob, we're following a major breaking story, a mid-air crash involving a passenger plane and Army helicopter in Washington, D.C. Plus, a local community spending millions to upgrade its 911 system. And Ray Petlin is tracking more warm temperatures to wrap up the week, all coming up right here at 11.
All right, Ken, thanks very much. The results of the poll tonight, choice between Nikola Jokic and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, MVP of the league. Right now, it's 53% for SGA. So they agree with you, Andrew. I think it's a very interesting debate, though, and it could change with still time left.
Let's see what happens between the Penguins and the Utah Hockey Club, Bob. Why does that team not have a nickname?
Well, Yeti was
what is
good.
its
I would have liked that,
mascot?
but they
a
had some
hockey
copyright
puck and hockey
problems.
sticks?
I don't know.
Oh.
I don't know, but they're winning 1-0 over the Penguins, who simply cannot score goals. On that note, Andrew, thank you. We
Goodbye,
appreciate
Bob.
it. See you again later this week. Good night, everyone.